Hello and welcome to another video here at AV Forums. This time we're taking you through our recommended picture settings for the Sony KD-75XD9405 Ultra HD 4K TV. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go into the menu system, which you can do by pressing the Action menu on the remote control, then going down to Picture. Now we're going to be showing you a day and a nighttime setting. There are a number of different picture modes, but we're going to be using Cinema Pro for our nighttime setting and Cinema Home for our daytime setting. So starting with the nighttime setting, auto motion picture off, we'll come back to these controls, light sensor off, and then go into the advanced settings. And here you can see we have brightness. This is actually the control for the backlight. The higher the number, the brighter the overall image is. This is a nighttime setting and it's a fairly bright panel, so a setting of 15 is more than bright enough for a comfortable viewing experience at night. Contrast, set that to 90. That's the highest setting before it starts to eclipse. That gives you a nice contrasty, punchy image. Gamma, set that to -2. In testing, that meant it tracked at our target of 2.4, which is ideal for a nighttime setting. Black level, leave that at 50. That's the default setting, but that was actually the correct setting. Black adjust off, advanced contrast enhancer off. Extended dynamic range you can also turn off, but auto local dimming, we found a medium setting gave us the best results with nice deep blacks but not excessive haloing or blooming around bright objects. So you can use medium. If you find that doesn't work for you, you can also try low, but in testing medium worked well. Moving on to colour. Set the colour control, leave it as default of 50, same for hue, leave that as default of 0. Colour temperature, we're using Expert 1 for our colour temperature setting, so that means we can then go into the advanced colour temperature setting and we can do an actual setup for calibrated grayscale. So here you can see we've got red gain max, green gain max, blue gain -2, red bias +3, and green bias and blue bias at 0. That actually gave us a really accurate grayscale. Now obviously every TV can be slightly different, every environment is slightly different, but that actually gave us a good accurate grayscale and certainly worth trying. Colour space, you can leave that at auto, and live colour turn off. Clarity, sharpness leave at 50. Clarity creation, you can either leave this on auto or manual and experiment with it, or you can turn it off. It's entirely up to you, but for general watching of non-Ultra HD content, we just left it at auto. Random noise reduction, you can turn that off, and digital noise reduction, you can also turn that off. Motion settings. Motion flow, we're using True Cinema. That gives us a nice film-like image. The other settings will tend to use frame interpolation, and that gives it excessive smoothing, makes it look like video. So we'd recommend using True Cinema, certainly for anything that's film-based, but if you're watching things like fast-moving sport, you might want to experiment with other settings, but we recommend True Cinema for film-based content, and film mode with that high. Okay, so that's the nighttime setting. Let's now go up to Cinema Pro, now down to Cinema Home. Again, auto picture mode off, light sensor off, into the advanced settings, and here you can see now we've got a brightness setting of 30, much brighter for a daytime viewing with more ambient light. Contrast at 90, gamma now is at 0, that means it's now tracking at 2.2, again ideal for a daytime setting. Black level will still be left at 50, black adjust off, advanced contrast enhancer off, extended dynamic range off, auto local dimming still at medium. Colour, again here, default setting of 50, hues, default setting of 0. We actually found when we tested it that the white balance control settings that we'd used for the grayscale in the night mode were equally as applicable in the day mode. It still measured really accurately, so we just left it with the settings we use for nighttime. Colour space, also leave that at auto, live colour off. And the rest of the settings are the same again for the daytime setting as they are for the nighttime settings. So sharpness at 50, reality creation, auto, random noise reduction off, digital reduction off. And over to motion flow, again we're using True Cinema for any film-based content, and film mode left it high. Okay, now we're going to show you our suggested settings for HDR content, but before we do that, we're just going to go into the home page. And then we go down to settings, across to external inputs, and down here you'll find HDMI signal format. So if you're using an Ultra HD HDR source like Ultra HD Blu-ray for example, you need to make sure whichever HDMI input you're using, you have set it to enhanced format. That's a little tip there for you, make sure you set that to enhanced format before you use an Ultra HD Blu-ray source for example. Okay, now we've done that, we'll show you our suggested settings for HDR content. Okay, we're now sending the XD94 an HDR signal, so let's go into the menu system again. And you can see it's saying picture mode HDR video. That is your only option when it's receiving an HDR source. A lot of the controls are now grayed out. We'll go into advanced settings. And we've got brightness, that's going to be at max. Contrast is going to be at max. Gamma 0. Black level 50. Black adjust off. Advanced contrast enhancer off. And as you can see, auto dimming is now defaulting to medium when it's HDR content. In the colors, color 50, hue 50, we're using the same color temperature settings that we were using for both day and night. Again, it worked really well. It gave us a nice even grayscale with HDR content. Color space BT 2020 because that's the color space that's actually used for delivery for Ultra HD Blu-ray content in HDR, and live color off. Clarity, we've got sharpness at 50 again, default setting. Reality creation, again, you can leave it on at auto, turn it off, or try the manual settings if you like. I think for HDR content, I'd probably just leave it off. And motion flow, again, true cinema for film-based content, which in the case of HDR is pretty much going to be most of it at the moment. And then we've left film mode at high, but that won't be applicable to this content. And that's basically it. There isn't much in the way of user controls for HDR, so a lot of it's defaulting or grayed out and pretty straightforward. And that's it. Those are our settings for day, night and HDR modes for the Sony KD-75XD9405. Thanks for watching.